On this super review, let's take a look at the Soundpeats Truengine 2. In some ways, it's been a while since we've had Soundpeats here on the channel, but in other ways, it's not really been that long. So Soundpeats and Dudios, from what I understand, they're related companies, sister companies, some sort of familial relationship there. And it's been a while since I've had something with the Soundpeats logo on it, but from what I understand, a lot of my favorite budget Bluetooth earphones, so like the Dudios Zeus Ace, from what I understand, you can get those under a Soundpeats brand as well. And they're pretty good for the price, or not even just for the price. For 30 bucks, you can get a pretty nice true wireless Bluetooth earphone. But here we've got the Truengine 2, and this is not exactly budget. So these things cost around $120 to $130, depending on whether or not you get them with a wireless charging case. But they're also available on Kickstarter right now, at least as of the time of this unboxing. I don't know if that Kickstarter is still going to be available by the time you're watching this, but if you want to get them cheaper and risk, there's a little bit of risk with Kickstarter, but that's always the case. But either way, what I'm interested in doing is checking out and finding out, are $120 Soundpeats really a pretty significant upgrade over what I can get for 30 bucks from the same company? So what makes the Truengine 2 especially unique is this dual dynamic driver configuration. And I'm not sure at this point if it's just a gimmick or if it's actually going to have noticeable improvements in the sound. So I think these things look pretty cool. They're a little bit bulkier than what you would get with the cheaper Bluetooth IEMs, but I don't know. If it sounds good enough, I'm willing to accept it. Let's go ahead and open up the box. We'll find out what we get with the Truengine 2, and then I'll spend some time living with these things, testing the Bluetooth, the functionality, and I'll compare them to those $30 Dudios, which I think are the same as $30 Soundpeats, and see, is it worth 120 bucks for the Truengines? So I've spent some time living with the Soundpeats Truengine 2 true wireless earbuds and comparing these to some other true wireless earbuds that I've got. And well, I've got some thoughts, and we can start by talking about the general build and the physical aspects of this IEM. Do I call them that? I don't know. Of this earphone. And overall, like, I think build quality wise, these things are actually pretty well done. The case is fairly typical. Very typical plastic case, but it's got a nice magnetic lid on the top, which I appreciate. The general construction, I would say, is roughly on par with, you know, the other cheaper true wireless earbuds that I've tried. So not worse, which you would expect because these things are fairly expensive compared to some of those, but also frankly not really much better. Some of the things that maybe stand out is it does have wireless charging built into the case, which you don't get in the cheaper true wireless buds, at least not most of them. As well as you get USB-C for charging the case with a wire if you want to use a wire. And I think that's a nice touch. You know, people always complain about not having USB-C on devices, and well, finally Soundpeats has given it to us. So that's all nice, but the one problem I do have with this case is, well, it's just kind of large, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. It's not as large as something like, let's say the Powerbeats Pro, but this is definitely larger than most of the other sort of budget true wireless earbuds. Now, what you get with that larger case is you get these buds that have these little ear hooks on them. And I gotta say, those ear hooks actually make these things massively, massively secure. Like, I was surprised. I didn't think I would really care about the ear hooks, but I actually really like fitting these things into my ears. They fit in really easy. They're super secure. They create a stronger isolation for sure than I get with some of my cheaper, more basic true wireless earbuds. I assume that's basically the appeal of the Powerbeats, is that, well, they're definitely not the size of AirPods. They're not as convenient as AirPods. They come in a nice bulky package. But what you get for that trade-off is you get that secure fit. And these things fit as secure as I could imagine wanting them to. And the case here is at least, it's smaller than the Powerbeats case. So that much is going for it. Now, in terms of functionality with the Truengine 2, it's pretty basic stuff of what you would expect with most true wireless earbuds. So you've got tap controls. You don't have a button, which is pretty common these days. And like is pretty common these days, frankly, with tap controls. I find them to be a little bit fiddly. Let's see, it's a double tap to toggle pause and play, and then you can press and hold on either ear to skip forward or backwards a track. I don't think there's any volume controls, which again, fairly typical. And I actually don't think that that's a big issue with an earbud like this. So for me, when I'm wearing true wireless earbuds, or basically anything when I'm outside, if there's a lot of sound coming into my ears, it's pretty important to be able to easily change volume. You know, like with the AirPods, they don't easily change volume, and I wish that they did. These, however, these things do a much better job of blocking outside sound. So for me, it's not so important to be able to have easy access to volume control. So I don't really mind that too much. The bigger issue that I had was just when trying to toggle that pause and play, I was very, very frequently accidentally triggering Siri. And I actually don't even know, is that like it must be like a triple tap or something like that. I don't even know what that command is because I would never want to intentionally trigger Siri, but it definitely happened quite a bit with these things. So that's something to keep in mind. Other notes that I can give on the functionality of the Truengine 2. Let's see, we can talk about the Bluetooth and the general range I found to be above average, not fantastic Bluetooth range, but definitely strong, a nice strong connection. And again, a little bit stronger than average. So that much is good. Another thing that's worth noting is that the Truengine 2 supports Apdex, which you don't get in most of the cheaper true wireless earbuds. And what Apdex is it's just a higher quality codec for streaming Bluetooth audio. Now, some things to keep in mind. iOS, if you've got an iOS, an iPhone, you're not going to have access to Apdex. The best codec that you'll get here is AAC, which is not bad, but it's not quite as good as Apdex. But if you've got basically any of the late-ish versions of Android, you're going to have access to Apdex. And I did notice in comparing these things on my iPhone versus my S10e that they did sound a little bit better over Apdex. Now, the difference is not huge, but they did sound a little bit better. For me, what the bigger difference was that over Apdex, the Bluetooth latency on these things is actually really good. I mean, there's a little bit of Bluetooth latency, which is typical, but not too much. Over AAC on my iPhone, However, the Bluetooth latency in these things it's a little meh. It's not especially bad, but for a true wireless earbud that costs north of $100, it's a little bit disappointing. Oh, actually, one other thing worth mentioning about the Bluetooth functionality of these things is that Soundpeats advertises that you can use these things one at a time, which with other true wireless earbuds is sometimes the case that you can use one of them, but you have to use like the master bud, right? So usually it's like the right one will pair to your phone and the left one connects to the right one. You can use the right one by itself, but you can't use the left one by itself. Well, with the Truengine 2, you can use either one by itself, which is pretty cool. I don't know if I've actually used any true wireless earbuds that do that except for my AirPods, but, and this is kind of a big but, unlike my butt, it's kind of a big but. To get them to work independently like that, you actually have to go through a pretty fiddly, kind of goofy pairing process where you will pair the master one to your phone first, and then immediately afterward, the second one, the left one, is going to try and make a separate connection with your phone. So I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter to you, but if you've got a list of items in your Bluetooth connection history, this is going to leave 2 items in your history. So that's just something worth knowing. You could actually just kind of ignore that feature and not have 2 items in your Bluetooth connection list. So it would work totally fine that way. You just wouldn't be able to freely swap between them one at a time. So now we can talk about the sound of the Truengine 2. And overall, I think that these things sound pretty good. There's definitely nothing offensive. Like the treble on these things, which is kind of where you're most likely to get some offensive sound, it's fairly relaxed, and that can make for maybe a little bit of a narrow head stage, maybe a little bit of a sense of lacking detail, but it does prevent these things from being fatiguing at all. I know a lot of people have treble sensitivity, and I don't think that these things are going to be an issue for anybody. The general sound signature though here is probably what you would expect, which is you've got some bass emphasis. In fact, maybe a little bit too much bass emphasis for my tastes, but if you're a bass head, you'll probably like it. And then you've got a fairly lean lower mid-range with a little upper mid-range lift. Pretty typical, gives a nice sense of clarity. Although again, that fairly tame treble does prevent these things from sounding super, super engaging. I would say that the sound is more on the relaxing side than it is on the engaging side. Now, compared to the Dudio's Zeus Ace, which are one of my favorite true wireless earbuds. The Zeus Ace definitely in comparison to this sound more gritty and more grainy, but I still find those a little bit more engaging to listen to just because they've got a little bit more treble and less bass. These things, less treble, more bass, which maybe that's exactly what you want, but for me, I don't know. It's not exactly what I want, but I don't know. Again, like overall, it's a very comfortable listen, and I think it's pretty well done. So at this point, this has probably sounded like a pretty positive review of the Soundpeats Truengine 2. Unfortunately, I've had some issues with these that will prevent me from recommending them. Now, this might be an early copy of it, and maybe this issue is going to be isolated to my copy. I would definitely recommend looking at some other reviews and seeing if people are reporting similar issues, but I got to let you know about the issues that I had. So right off the bat, when I first tried to pair these things with my phone, I had a ton of problems. I ended up having to reset the entire earbuds from the scratch by pressing and holding on the touch buttons for like 30 seconds. That did actually end up solving my initial problem, and typically I probably wouldn't even really mention that, except that it wasn't the end of my Bluetooth problems. So some other problems I've had is that fairly often, I mean, I'm gonna say like 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 times when I take these things out of the case, only the right one will connect to my phone and the left one doesn't seem to turn on. And so then I've got mono sound, and I'll put the buds back in the case and pull them back out, and almost every time they'll connect and they'll work fine at that point, but that's a bit of a hassle, right? And then the other issue that I've been having, and this one I think is an even bigger issue, is that I'm not sure what it is, but sometimes I'll take these things out of the case. They'll have been sitting in the case charging all day, and they should be totally fine on battery. In fact, my iPhone will show that the battery is at 100%. I'll plug them in my ear, start listening to music, and like 10 seconds in, they'll just say power off and they'll turn themselves off. And frankly, I don't know how to fix that. I mean, I put them back in the case and I charge them all the way back up. That's kind of how I've been dealing with that problem, but I don't think it's the sort of thing that most people are gonna be okay dealing with. So because of that experience, I don't think I can recommend the Soundpeats Truengine 2. So all things considered, I'm gonna have to give these things 2 stars out of 5. And if I didn't have a little bit of faith that Soundpeats would do better if I got a replacement, I might give these things 1 out of 5 because they're not really usable in this state, but I've got some hope at least that Soundpeats has done better with other copies of it, and maybe I just got a lemon. I don't know, but for what these things are, I'll still give them 2 stars out of 5 because I don't know, man, as big and as bulky as this case is, I actually really want to like these things. I like the wireless charging, and what I really like is the fit and the secureness of these things. They're a little bit big and they're a little bit bulky compared to some other true wireless earbuds. You'll see them in my ears, but I don't know, there's something about how well these things fit that makes me really want to like these things. And the sound, while it might not be my favorite tuning, it's definitely good enough that I wouldn't complain about. Except I'm making a video where I do have a couple of little complaints. Forget that. What I'm trying to say is that I like the sound of these things. They're pleasant, they're relaxing, they're good for podcasts, and even pretty good for music. Unfortunately, they got problems. If you're interested in checking out the Soundpeats Truengine 2, like always, I've got links in the description down below, and while you're down there, you can hit the like button for the video if you liked it. You can subscribe to the channel, and then I'll see you on the next Super Review.